life. I mean, I started out as a dancer, and then when I became a choreographer at the Broadway Dance Center, that's the school that I came
Yeah, I
back
know
to
that one.
teach at. And so I created Latin jazz for that reason, because in the early 80s and 90s, there was nobody mixing or had the dance background that I had, because I dance all dances. I didn't just dance salsa. Salsa is something that I grew up with because my father was a conga player and a musician,
Mm.
and my mom, they were just creative. That was like our ritual, right? Our family ritual was always being around music and around dancing. But when I wanted to become a professional dancer, it's when I started with other dances. Like I started with hustle because I was a 12-year-old, 13-year-old. I was real a teenager. And that was a dance that was very popular at that time. And I remember before even Eddie Torres created his system, they were dancing, what we were dancing, but on a mambo. So they were actually copying what the hustle dancers were doing. So when I look at Eddie's doing, I call it hustle on too, because we were the kids doing hustle. That was the hot thing. Mambo wasn't so hot at that time, because mambo was hot in the 50s and 60s, right? But in the 70s, 80s, it was hustle. And so that's when Maria Torres and his wife and him started dancing more of that, integrating the styles that were happening, because he was exposed to jazz and he was exposed to all the stuff. And for me, I came the other way around it, where I was exposed to music and dance and authentic folklore styles very, very young. And then as a dancer studying and doing hustle, I wanted to become a professional dancer. So I studied ballroom, and then I went and I studied it all: ballet, jazz, Afro, Alvin Ailey. I went to study everywhere. And there was nobody that was doing what I wanted, what I felt in my body. Because I would put the music on and I would create things. And like people would say, what are you doing? And I'm like, it's a mix of this and that. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. So pretty much what ended up happening is that I winded up getting work and working with choreographers and teachers and people, because they wanted me in the room to see if they can adapt some of the moves that I had. And I realized when I was in ballroom dancing in the 90s, I came back to ballroom dancing. I started out as a young kid, left it, came back when I was in my 30s. And I realized that people were copying what I was doing. People were just copying it because they couldn't explain what the style that I was dancing. And all of my coaches would tell me, stay on course with what you're doing, because you have the best of both. You have technique and you also have your authentic style. And I questioned that, right? Because I wanted to question, what is technique and what is authentic style? Because to me, they're one and the same.
Yeah.
I think, you know what I mean? They're one and the same. Dance comes from authentic style dancing, or everything else that has been put into schools has things that has been adopted and changed and colonized, right? To have it become something that they can actually put into a conservatory, into schools and on stages and TV and film. And anyway, that's how I got my work. I started to become a dancer that was dancing in all mediums. And then I decided that it was important for me to represent my people and my culture. That's when I created Latin jazz in the early 90s. They said, oh, we would love to have you come here and teach, and what kind of jazz class? I said, I'm teaching Latin jazz. He goes, what's that? We never heard of that. I said, that's right. I said, you had never heard of it because it's been around forever, but nobody's been able to be able to embody it and bring it to the masses. And I want my people to know that if they come into a performing arts school, that they're welcomed here. I said, because it's important for them to feel empowered and feel as though that they're being represented. Because what I find myself constantly doing is being a dancer and a choreographer that's always training stars, other teachers, other choreographers. They want to learn, and then they put it into their material. You see what I mean? That's what I wanted to, they were putting it into their work and then calling it their own. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm going to create this, and then they can come and take class, and then it's open for everybody. And so for me, it went from an idea to worldwide. Everybody is teaching Latin jazz. Everybody has been, putting into the schools. And I've had the pleasure of taking it from the idea of teaching and performing to actually bringing it onto Broadway stages and films and television. I mean, you know my body of work, and I could send you my stuff where you could see it documented. It's all public information. This year, the Lincoln Center Library is documenting my story because they're going to release it this year so that people can understand the amount of work. And being a pioneer, working in silo, when everybody else was trying to escape their culture, I ran right into it because that was always important to me. It was like, well, wasn't accepted as a dancer until I was able to find myself within what I was always given naturally. And for me, that was important, that both things come together, you know. One is the discrimination and the omission of our history and our culture and our body types, because I was body shamed as a young kid and I was told I was never going to make it. You know how it is. And I was told I was never going to make it.
Being Latina.
Yeah, and I told I was never going to make it. And then here I am, I made it, and I made it into the highest institutions. And I'm coming in just being me, Latina, 100% Latina. You learn my craft. And then hopefully what will happen is that you will get to see it become commercial. Now it is. And so now that it's commercial, and in the pandemic, I had a rude awakening of, oh my God, you know, not only are we having to look at the lens even closer now in the pandemic, right? Of us being Latinos but also being a Black Latina, because I always was conscious of that. I didn't fit in the quotation marks of what a Latina was. I didn't fit in the quotation marks of what a Black person is. And I was like, white people are like, what do we do with you? And so my question in 2020 was, how do I serve and come back better as an educator, as a choreographer, and as a director? And somebody that is always questioning how I can lift up our craft. And so when In the Heights came out, I don't know if you heard about that, but In the Heights, the movie. Yeah. And that really propelled me.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. And that was a rude awakening, because people were calling me to do interviews and to talk about it. And I was like, well, I feel like there's a couple of different things. We need to have private conversations among Latinos. It's not something to put on social media. I think it needs to be private conversations, Latinos coming together, so that we, and those who are like-minded, who are already there and are exploring, because there's many of us, we just don't know each other, to really come together and ask and see how we can uplift and educate ourselves, because I think there's a lot of different things. Latinos themselves have colorism and racism amongst themselves. So right? And we got to clean up our own act, right? That's one thing. But then on the artistic side, I went, well, what I can do is that I can actually be able to put this on stage. This is what I do. So I did. I created Solo del Barrio, which I did it last September. I got a residency for 2 weeks. And in October, I did a presentation for one night, a 90-minute show that I put together. And it was asking the question of the complexities of being Afro Latino and being Black in America versus Latin America. And what does that feel like? You know, because I was asking myself that question. It's like, for me, I was like, there's three, but I can't check off a box. So that's how I started with myself. And then I wanted to convey that in a theatrical way. And so from that, what's now happened is that all these other things are being created, right? Now the Jacob's Pillow invited me. They say, we would love to have you. Can you come up with a program that represents what you want? And I said, absolutely, I can, because this is what I'm ready for. I've been doing it forever for everybody else, but I want to definitely be able to do it myself in the way that I feel it, see it, and hear it, and connect all of these methodologies, right? And all these different ways that we've been able to incorporate our dances into the different mediums, and ask the question again, but in a different way, so that we can see what comes out of that. You know, is very specific. It's grounded in real movement and truth, because it's not, we're not contrived. You know, like I was 17, that's when I was groomed to be a ballroom dancer, right? I won a major competition here in New York City, and Fred Astaire Dance Studio offered to pay me and to sponsor me to travel all over the country representing them, to compete, right? And I would laugh. I would laugh when they were teaching me their steps. I'm like, what do you mean that you have mambo and cha-cha written in a book?
What is
That's
that?
crazy.
Yeah, I know, right?
I would crack up, and they were like, what are you laughing about? I said, because Latinos don't do that. It's natural. It is part of the culture. It's inherent. It is part of their daily, rituals and what comes from tribes as a way of being able to connect to their spirituality and embodiment of their body. If anything, you got to learn from us. I was like, oh, I don't need to. I said, I don't need to look in a book. I'll teach you that part. It was like that. But, when it came to those things in the international style, I did see, I said, okay, you guys took that from us, but what you've done is you created a ballet version of partner dancing. That's what ballet Latin. I call it the ballet Latin. I could understand it, and I can compute that in my head. This is how this is stylized thing that you've created has given you guys an opportunity, in England and abroad, to then sell it back to us in a different way.
It's
and I
so
said,
funny that.
That's what I said to them. I was like, you're selling it back to us. But this is our cultura. You go to any country, and go look at what they dance. And then you will see that the elements of what you've taken belongs to these people. So I feel like that's where I get you. Like we're on the same track, but my lived experiences as a young dancer that I had to fight to be in the space was insurmountable. That's why I'm doing this. I mean, I'm going back and I'm going, oh my God, what I had to experience as a 12-year-old, right? That little girl and those teenagers still on my shoulder. And I was humiliated because I was told that I was too authentic, too street, that it was primitive, and it was like, oh, you're too raw. And I'm like, what? And it was so confusing to me. When you're 12 and 13, you can't defend yourself, right? You go home and you walk away. And I was very depressed. And I went through a bad period mentally because I was trying to fit into a box that wasn't mine. I brought it to MAC, Manhattan Movement Arts Center. It hasn't been put into the curriculum yet, but they incorporated it into their curriculum. Pace University also did something. I went there too. So the thing that I think that there needs to be more exploration though, here's what I find. I think that it's there's different methodologies, right? And then there is what I know for a fact, and I can tell you from experience, bringing it already to Broadway, bringing it to the big screen already. Most of the people that were in the Heights in the movie came from being trained by me, right? Working with all these celebrities that from, Vanessa Williams to Cheyenne to Ricky Martin. I mean, the list goes on of everybody that I've worked with, right? For many, many years. And what I noticed is that in order for us to make a curriculum, we first have to dissect in the manner in which that is going to be presented, because the Latin jazz and the Afro Latin experience is already being incorporated. It's just not being given the authentic name, which is why this year at Jacob's Pillow is going to be historical. That will be a first. That's why when I went to City Center, and that video that you saw was at City Center. And then I went to New World in Florida, and I was at USC University, and I did a workshop on these things, right? And to talk about what you're talking about. What I do know is that we need to get a conglomeration of people that are at that level to come together in order to articulate what that curriculum needs to look like. Because what I know that is, it's a thing, even with, let's say, ballet, Afro, jazz, everything that's happening now. I don't know if you realize it, but here in the United States, when we had the 2020, the uprising, everything is being turned upside down. People are wanting to discover movement in its authentic way. Yes. Everybody's doing that. I mean, here, all of the ballet companies, the theater companies were called out, like literally called out publicly. So there's a big turnover and a big thing. I just got called from a theater that I'm going to be doing Afro Latin intensive for them, and they're doing a whole musical theater program, so I'm going to be working with them. But I think that, going back to the focal point, I think in order for it to be a real curriculum, it cannot just be, I don't know how to say this without, it's not offensive, but it is doing what you're doing. You need to study it, Because I also talked to somebody in Australia about a year ago, young man that was also doing a paper on salsa. He goes, "Oh, I would love to bring you out here." I said, "You keep researching until, and we'll see when that happens. This is before the
Yeah, me too.
pandemic,
I want
you
to
know?"
bring you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would love to, and I would love to, but I think what needs to happen is that we need to, if you're going to do it, I would love to work with you, because then we need to bring those people together and talk
Yes.
about it in that way. It is a completely different thing. It is so above people's head, like I was. And I was above people's heads. I didn't even know that I was above people's heads, because I was just dancing what I felt. Right? I was like I said, I was 12, already dancing in an advanced way that I didn't understand what I had. I didn't know. When you're 12, who knows, right? It's later on that you realize, oh my God, I didn't, I was naive. I was just doing what I felt. And they're like, no, you were different. That nobody can dance the way that you danced. Nobody did what you did. And so studying, going back now and looking at it, I went, oh, I see. So, and because, but here's why I want to say it, because I went into the system that was saying no to me, right? So here's the thing, when the system that said, no, you can't make it, I said, I'm going to learn what the system wants me to do. So I had to learn ballet, jazz, everything, Afro, all of it. And so now coming back with this, all this knowledge, I went, no, we have our own methodology. It's just getting the people in the room that can deliver that in a way that it can convey and they can feel it to that extent. Because I teach all over the world. I've been doing it for years. But what we have not done yet is get Latinos. This is really important that you understand that. The people that own it to
Of
come together
course.
and do it. The people that own it and that deserve to be teaching it, to be in the room. That's why I'm doing this.
That's why,
And what I'm
yes.
saying to you is that what you're saying, I've done, because I had to, as a young girl, I didn't have the finances to finish college. I had to make a decision between, feeding myself and my family with you, because I was contributing to my family, because all of my I was in my second year of college, and I was being offered so much work as a dancer, but I couldn't, and the money that I was being given from the school got taken away. So I was like at a crossroads, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go do my PhD in the school of life. I'm going to throw myself into the deep pool. So what you're saying, in the United States, they may not know me in the UK. Some people know me in the theater, but in the theater world, because I'm known in different worlds. That's the thing. It's
Yes.
very unusual, because I worked in so many different mediums. And so this year and next year, my focus is now to bring all those worlds together, right? But I think that what the thing that I wanted to say to you is that I had to get my PhD in doing it. And so I'm in the rooms, in these colleges, all of that. You know why? Because of all the credits. If I didn't have any of those credits, I would not be in there. There's no way that Jacob's Pillow would be able to be inviting me to do my own program. It doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? And that's what I was telling my people. I said, listen, the only reason why I've gone up the ladder is because I had to fight my way to be in the room. And once I got in the room, to stay in the room. And the only way that you
Yes.
stay in the room is by actually
Doing.
making yourself, doing it and making yourself better. And that each
Yeah.
time that you got an opportunity to be able to showcase yourself, what are you going to do about raising the level of how you move and how you dance? That's the thing. It's like there's I'm coming at it from two different ways, but I definitely want to collaborate with you because you're on the right track. The thing is that the only way that we are going to get respect is several ways. It's getting the people in the room that've got the credibility and they've got the knowledge, and those who are fighting like yourself in the educational system, because that's what I'm doing. I'm challenging the institutions. I'm no longer like, I haven't been quiet. For 2.5 years, that's all I've been doing. On Broadway, off Broadway, I'm a Tony voter. I'm on the executive board of the Society of Directors and Choreographers. I'm a trustee for the Society of Directors and Choreographers Foundation. Listen, I'm involved in so much in the last 2.5 years that it would blow your mind what I'm doing. But I'm involved here with making sure that over 142 cultural workers, essential workers that were literally stripped of their livelihood are now going to be recognized. And I'm part of a team that's helping them to transfer the power financially and educationally, giving them the opportunity to be able to keep growing. And the only way that we can do that is by dismantling the way that the societies, and especially the colonized societies, have put us in this box that we have to be having a PhD. Yes, it's important to have it, but no, you cannot negate where you're happening in the US right now is that we are revamping in the way that we are trying to work and respect the cultural workers, and also revamping in the way that educational systems have omitted and excluded us from the seat of the table. So what we're doing here in the last 2 years, just so that you know, because it took me 2.5 years to get here. This year is where
I want to do that here.
Yeah, you're going to do it. That's why I said, that's why I want to collaborate with you, because it took me 2.5 years to get to the point that I'm at right now. And right now, it's not just me. There's over 142 cultural organizations that have been doing it forever in silo, like you know, and they've been alone. And we finally are all coming together. And this is a big deal. And the thing is that, yes, I support that you go and you get your PhD. But I also want you to be recognized for the fact that it took you 51 years to get into the room. And that is what I'm talking about. It shouldn't have taken us this long. My point is that this is where we need to challenge the systems that are colonized, because that's the word. When you're colonized, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that until I started to realize it. I was like, oh my God. I did have, because this is the way I was brought up. You don't realize it. And I said, but that's why I was feeling like a fighter. I always felt like a fighter in the room, you know? And it was that thing pushing against the system because of you having to take 51 years, for me too, and more, to be where I'm at. And you go, oh, it's because you've put in place all of these stipulations that keep us outside of the room. You're saying that you can't teach if you don't have a bachelor's. You can't teach it if you don't have a MFA. You can't teach it if you don't have a PhD. You can't teach. And I said, oh, by the way, I went and I taught at Yale. Oh, by the way, I did a lecture at Harvard. Oh, by the way, I went and the people that come and study with me are from all the Ivy League schools. Oh, by the way, I've taught. So and they're like, what? And I said, yeah. And you know what I did? I taught them what I know. They came to me. I didn't go looking for them. So at the end of the day, the question needs to be asked. How do we transfer the power? How do we transfer the power? How do we get you to be that person in the room that now not only gets your PhD, but that you become one of those directors in the colleges? Well, the relationship between the music and dance for salsa and African dance is inherent, meaning the music and the drum came first. That is the heartbeat of where they're from Mother Africa. And I think that, to me, the dance and the movement came from those tribes, you know, specifically when I look at my culture and I look at how the drums were integrated into the societal dances. It started out first with the Africans that were brought to the Hispaniola, like Cuba, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. Those are the main ones, but Venezuela, Colombia, those are also people that. And when I went to Colombia, I saw a whole African style of dance called mapalé, which blew my mind. It blew my mind. I was like, oh my God. And then I got in contact with people from Peru, and they showed me the African style, that there's, all these other things. So I think it's inherent and connected. I also think that, to me, the music, because it evolved and had the connections of what the Afro style and what to me was the European Latin, with the mandalion and all the guitar and all that stuff, that connection of those two, it allowed it for freedom of an interpretation of what people call primitive and people call societal dance to come together. And so for me, it's connected in so many different ways between what's rooted in our culture and also what was reflecting and what was happening during the times in which they were created. Our music is polyrhythmic, so people have to understand that it's complex, right? In the way that you hear it, not everybody hears the same things. And I think, dividing it between the music and the movement is important, because one doesn't work without the other. I mean, you can, if you want, in theory, if you're talking about, professional dancers, there's a lot that you can do without music, because, then that becomes more of an interpretive thing. But I think societal dances like salsa, it's something that people need to be relating to the music. It's not separate. So it's important to have it. And also, not only that, aside from the dance, I mean, just playing is healing, right? So you're
Yeah.
giving them something that's healing too. You know, even if they couldn't dance, but the fact that they can actually touch and create, you're going to feel that. So that's a really great way, I think, to definitely also teach people that don't know, you know, especially beginners, you know, that don't know, and even professional dancers that are not relative to our styles of dance. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Thank you. And what do you think? You know, you talked about In the Heights. Did you
Mhm.
choreograph for In the Heights? Sorry.
Not the film, no.
No.
No, I didn't work on the film, but a lot of the dancers that I trained are in that film. But I worked on the original off-Broadway show that got them to Broadway. So in 2006, I was one of the associate choreographers on that, and it contributed a lot. And Lin-Manuel came and studied with me at Broadway Dance Center. You know, Karen Olivo, Robin De Jesus, all the Andrea, you know, and Andrea Burns, all these people, I trained them, you know, so I was on that team with that really trained them and taught them how to move that way. You know, that was in the show that was at Baryshnikov Theater before it went to Broadway. So I had a hand in, and anything that you have that's Latin here, my hand is on it. Latin. Yeah. There's this unbiased, unconscious racism amongst themselves because what's been projected onto you has been to assimilate. You see what I mean? When you're being told quietly, figuratively, right? You're seeing it in pictures, you're hearing it on TV, you know, you're seeing it everywhere. What's going to happen? They're starting to make that attractive. That's a whole thing. That's a whole thing about the marketing. That's why I spent the last 2 years going, I'm not coming back the same way. They're going to be surprised because I am going full on out with my mouth, with my ideas. I'm going full out because I'm so ready to be on that soapbox, but in a way that also has to be how they can understand it. That's the thing. It's like when I did that show in October, it was really questioning, and having them, you know, my opening statement was powerful because I was like, I had a statement of what I want them to understand what was going to be happening for the evening, and what was happening in Latin America versus Latin America, and how complex it is for us to be able to even have a place and be able to check off a box. And I said, I can't check off a box. I said, I know 3 things. I said, I know my nationality is that I'm American. My race, I'm Black. I said, my ethnicity, I am Puerto Rican, Dominican, Cuban. I said, at least I know those 3 things because I had parents that gave me an education, that they had 2 miracles to rub together. And my mother had to, you know, leave a dictatorship. And that when she talked about the American dream, I didn't understand it because I was born here. I said, but I understand it now. I understand what she was trying to tell me, that I have to stand on top of her shoulders and speak loudly my name in the way that I'm supposed to say it. Not Maria Torres. My name is Maria Torres. And I am una directora. You know what I mean? Speaking both languages, because at the end of the day, that is what America needs to adopt. And America has told us that we needed to assimilate. No, we're not here to assimilate. We're here to stand up and say, we're here. We've always been here. Get to know us our way. And if you want to speak in draft and you want to be raw, that's up to you. But at least be real. Don't be allowing yourself we have to break out of that mold, meaning we've allowed ourselves to be assimilated. Not me, because like I told you, I didn't have a choice. They said no to me. So my booty, my body, they were saying no, but they said, fine. So if I can't be like you, I'm going to be me, you know? So I didn't have a choice, right? But if I would have had a choice, I could have told you, I would have done it. I'm telling you right now, back then, it was so important for me to be a dancer. I was willing to do anything to do that, right? But the reason I didn't get it, they did me a service by saying, no, oh, we don't know how to market you. They made me find a way. And so I said, oh, so I had to market myself. I'm only me. That's why I'm a legend. People say I'm a legend. No, I just been me because I couldn't be anybody else. But if I could have been, I would have done that because that's what they were telling us that they wanted us to do. So I think that's what's bothering you, is that you get it, that you go in 2022 or 21, when that movie came out, do you honestly think that that message needs to be there? No. Yeah, I think you should. And I think it's important because this is the time now is to take that ownership back and take that power back and transfer it in a way that it's supposed to respect. Because I remember it was always Maria Torres and Angel Figueroa, or Maria Torres and Kenny Gonzalez. You know, it was always my name first. It's changed later. Do you know what I mean? It changed later. That's the thing. It's that I think there's this misogynistic way of, not just in salsa. I have to tell you what's happening in dance in general. Whenever there's anything that's like indigenous or that it is ethnic, considered ethnic, there's this weird dichotomy of how the Latin, how the men are treated versus what the women are, how the women are treated. That's why when I find another powerful woman, I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, I'll collaborate you and I'll support you, because there's not many of us. There isn't. There's a lot of guys, but there's
A
not
lot of
many. A lot of men, not many. And even this is everywhere, Irene. This is not just in the salsa world. This is
yeah.
also in the theater world. This is also in the film world. This is also in the TV world. I could tell you because I'm in all those rooms, and it's the same thing. Everybody, we're all saying and speaking the same thing, but just it's a different topic of conversation. How do we create more opportunities for Latinos in TV? How do we create more opportunities for women and men in television? How do we have the women who are behind the scenes get more? It's the same conversation. And I think that the lens in which we need to do it is training our own people, because I'm with you. You have children. I don't have children. I have thousands of children that I've trained all over, right? I do. I have that, but I don't have biological, right? So my goal in the next few years is to leave this legacy. Like if I was to leave a book for my kid, if I had a child, I would be pouring everything that I'm doing now into them. I would be doing this right now. But for me, I feel like, hey, you know what? I've got a lot of information. There's a lot of history and a lot of information here. Why not share it? And why not see how we can come together? And look what's happening. Without me even having to find you, you find me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I did it on purpose. I went, I'm just going to put it out there until people start calling me. And every single person, I'm going to talk to them. But when I talk to them, they better listen, because we need to really, really stand by that. There's two things, right? There's individualism has hurt Latinos.
Yeah.
Individualism has hurt Latinos big time. Latinos have not stuck together. That is why we're still behind. Do you honestly think that Latinos should be that far behind? No, we were here first. And we're behind because of that, because people do not support. What they do is that they individually support their thing, but they don't collectively come together to extend their hand. And I've been a pioneer, selfless that way. But then I said, you know what? This year is about finding like-minded people. I got to be very careful. I don't want to just work with everybody, because I've helped so many producers, celebrities, millions. People call me for consulting on different things. They call me, they send me their stuff. They look at, hey, take a look. I help so many people in the industry. But I'm going, no, I need to be my own weapon now, right now. And I want to work with other people that are like me, that are living their experience in the same way, and that are speaking the same language, because then we're all on the same journey. That passion will be supported by experience and also by follow through, because we're going to stay on that path. What happens is that people go, oh yeah, I want to do this. That's not it. A lot of them, they go and they go away. They become little starlets and they forget. And then I got to call them and say, no, come back. Come back. I need you to help me. You got to do me a video. You got to come over here and talk to them. I don't care. I have celebrities do that. That's what I do to them. Vanessa, no. I need you to do a video. She goes, okay, I'll do it. I said, thank you. That's what I do to them, because I've taught them. Do you know what I mean? I was their teachers. I was like, no. Now it's time for you to help when I need you. So I think for me, my philosophy and what I share with you in terms of advice is that plan it out. Be clear about it, but then you also have to be strategic about it, because that's where you have to protect what you want to do too. What happens is that people get, oh, I think that's a great idea. They take it and they misconstrue what you are saying.